Okay, there we go. All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Thursday afternoon. Another edition of the NBA Report. CP the Franchise here. Special guest, NBA analyst and NBA host extraordinaire Brian Gelsiler of NBA Radio on Sirius XM. You can catch him on NBA Weekends with our guy, former Coach of the Year, Sam Mitchell, on Saturday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. On today's show, we are going to react to some of the games that have posted so far in this opening week of the NBA action. Last night's overtime thriller between the Suns and the Clippers. Joel Embiid already on load management. We got to talk about that. A Boston 3 party on my New York Knicks and much, much more, man. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. All right, here we go. Brian, how are you, man? Welcome back to the show, man.
It's my pleasure, CP. How you doing, buddy? I'm good.
Good, man. Always great to have you on. All right, let's get right into it. 2 days into the NBA season 24-25 campaign. Last night we saw a lot of blowouts last night, but a couple of close ones, including the Suns' 116-113 overtime win over the Clippers in the new Intuit Dome, state-of-the-art dome. Kevin Durant and the Suns played spoiler. What were it's only one game, but what were your takeaways from the Suns' standpoint in this win?
I thought they looked different in a very good way. I like what Tyus Jones brings to the table. I think it takes an awful lot of responsibility, ball handling wise, off Devin Booker, off of Kevin Durant. I think as a team, they'll take care of the basketball much better. I like the effect that Mason Plumlee's going to have on this team on both ends of the floor. Defensively, he has the ability to switch on to guys on the perimeter much more effectively than Yusuf Nurkic ever has. And it allows Mike Budenholzer, who does like to play a lot of drop defense, historically, but it gives him the options to not always have to play drop and be able to pursue some different looks. Offensively, we saw it on a three early in the game from Bradley Beal. And just a great pass on a short roll from Plumlee in the middle. He's going to be able to do a lot of that. He's a really good dribble handoff guy. So I think their additions filled some massive needs for them. Going to be interesting to watch what happens on the wing with this team because I'm just going to come out and say it, CP. They don't need Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is a $52 million luxury for them. I could make the case to you that they're better off with Jones, Nurkic joining Durant and Booker in the starting lineup with either Royce O'Neal or Grayson Allen in that spot for a variety of different reasons. I think Beal's probably at his best for this team as a six-man. Bradley Beal's ego will not have it, nor will his salary be able to afford for it. It's a situation that bears watching. I watched him at one point in that game. Instead of spacing the floor appropriately, he wanted to be closer to the ball. The ball was coming up middle left. He ran to the left wing where Royce O'Neal was standing, came up behind him, and tapped him and pointed him over to go the opposite corner. Okay, stuff like that because Beal don't want to leave the ball. So you can see some insecurities manifesting itself in Bradley Beal's game regarding where his role is and the fact that this is, it's not a big three. It's a big two with a bunch of good pieces. Beal's one of those good pieces that can help them a ton. But him believing that he's a superstar at a time in this league where he's not a superstar anymore, I worry about that a little bit for the Phoenix Suns. But all in all, I liked how they looked last night. I actually thought the Clippers defended pretty well. Yeah. I didn't think the Clippers played a bad game. I think the Clippers really were out there competing very, very hard and are not going to roll over in the absence of Kawhi Leonard here, who I do hear may come back sooner rather than later. I think they want to see if they can get 60 games under his belt this season, and he's not going to play a ton of back-to-back. So that would necessitate him coming back soon as long as they get an idea what the source of all the swelling in his knee is. So I think that's the big work in progress there for the Clippers. But I loved what I saw of the Suns last night.
For sure, man. And, 24-3 for Beal, 8-12 from the field. Kevin Durant, after a quiet first half, comes back strong, especially in the overtime, in the extra period, to put them into overtime, rather. Hits a big mid-range jumper to get that game in overtime. 25 points, 8-17 from the field, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, and a block. I mean, listen, in a crowded West, obviously the Suns have a lot of pressure on them, but it's still number 35 that has to lead the way for them, man. What you think about KD's performance last night?
I thought he's did what KD is going to do at this stage of his career, which is let the game come to him. He has enough around him that he doesn't have to force his will on a game every minute he's out there. He can let the game come to him. And when he does, because teams have been focusing on other guys on the defense, there's going to be more space and more availability for him. I think he understands that. Listen, I picked the Suns to go to the finals out of the West because I think if they can stay, I believe that they can pretty much survive any injury, even a Booker injury for a period of time, except a Durant injury. Durant is what makes them special.
Right.
And so I feel like with Durant, they're going to stretch him out a little bit. I think there's an understanding of how long Kevin's been in the league. There's an understanding of how old Kevin is. And I think they're going to make sure they have him available when they need to have him available. And that doesn't necessarily mean Kevin Durant's going to load manage a ton or spend a ton of time on the bench. What it means is that not every possession is going to be labor intensive for Kevin Durant. The entire offense doesn't have to run through him every single time up the floor.
Right.
There's a massive benefit in that for Kevin Durant, especially when your best lineups and your best looks are going to have Kevin Durant at the 4. So inevitably in some matchups, he's going to get banged around inside a little bit. Like they match up against the Timberwolves, he's going to have to deal with Julius Randle. He's going to have to deal with that physicality. So like you're going to have some of those situations where he's going to be up against tougher fours, and Aaron Gordon for Denver in some of those spots. So you need to be able to conserve him at times. I thought the Suns did a really good job of that last night. Listen, Mike Budenholzer, I would not have fired Frank Vogel. I like Frank Vogel a lot. I thought he did a really good job last year. I thought he should have stayed in the job. But if you were going to let go of him, Budenholzer is a guy that will steer a steady ship for you. Guys like him. They enjoy playing for him. He's a big proponent of a lot of threes. He's going to work well with Durant. Durant's going to have a comfort level with that coach. I truly believe that. And I think that's going to help Phoenix a heck of a lot here get to the finish line. I think Phoenix at their best healthy is better than anybody else in the conference at their best healthy.
And as you mentioned, a potential finals contender. And I think if they do make it, it will be on the strength of the new depth that they've added over the offseason. And again, I think you have to give them some credit because as these teams try to navigate the second apron rules, and Phoenix certainly pushing right there, they were able to be fortunate in terms of adding to that depth. You mentioned Mason Plumlee. I thought the Monte Morris pickup was a good one. And then pretty much last minute in free agency, because his market had dropped out, they get Tyus Jones and address the point guard needs there. So you have a lot of flexibility here that I think will add to this Suns' depth, which should help them over the course of the 82-game season.
Yeah, I would think that it helps them a lot. I would think that it should absolutely help them over the course of an 82-game season. And listen, the point guard was a problem for them last year. Having Morris there, I think, is going to be a big deal for them on the defensive end of the ball. I like Tyus Jones a lot. He's not the best defensive player there ever was. Morris guards his yard. Morris can guard a spot. He'll put ball pressure on. He'll put 94 feet of pressure on certain ball handlers in some spots. He definitely helps a lot. And I agree with you. Listen, they're in the second apron. Matt Ishbia, as soon as he traded for Kevin Durant and then went and decided to pay Bradley Beal, he committed to being in the second apron. But they found a way to maneuver and manipulate out of that in some of these spots, and getting guys to take less helps. And yes, the Tyus Jones market drying up in the way that it did certainly is very, very meaningful there as well. And help them a ton. But nonetheless, they were opportunistic. James Jones, I know Isaiah Thomas is very involved there. They were able to get that stuff taken care of. So you give them a lot of credit there. And listen, the Suns are going to be a force to be reckoned with this season.
Yeah, no question. There was a lot made about Devin Booker last night. 6 shot attempts. Is this a product of, him wanting to sacrifice more for the team? Is this Beal cannibalizing his shots? What do you think about Devin Booker last night? 6 shot attempts for Book. There was some chatter about that.
One game in 82.
Yeah.
Other guys had it going. He's willing to step back. He'll take a lesser role. Devin Booker's done a lot of great things in his career. Scored 70 points in a game. He's been to an NBA final. He's never won a title. He wants to win a championship. If it means he's got to step back in certain spots, he'll step back. It's the thing about Devin Booker, if he's not complaining, and believe me, if Devin Booker's got a problem with something, he's the first guy that's going to go complain, CP. That's Devin Booker. Okay, Devin Booker can keep his mouth shut about anything if he doesn't like what's going on. He took 6 shots last night in a game that they won. Okay, he was on the floor plenty. Devin Booker is fine to do that. Keep in mind what he did for USA Basketball this past summer. He played a supporting role. That supporting role was with Kevin Durant as one of the lead guys. It's not uncomfortable for him He just wants to win. And believe me, when they need Book to go get 38, he'll be up to the task to go get 38. Devin Booker's the last thing I'm worried about when it comes to the Phoenix Suns right now.
Yeah, and I'm with you, man. And I got your screen fixed, Gal. So you don't. I mean, maybe on your end it might be a little disoriented, but
as long as you have it fixed, I'm good.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, we're good on our end. So no worries on that. And yeah, listen, I'm with you on Book. I mean, at this stage of his career, maybe it's like, hey, listen, maybe the best role for me is not having to just hoist up shots and get us buckets. It's doing everything else in between to impact the game. And as you said, on USA Basketball, I mean, from the coaching staff down to the players, everybody was just, enamored with the way that he played, the way that he sacrificed and did a little bit of everything to help this team achieve the gold. So, for the Phoenix Suns team, maybe that's what's necessary from Brook night in and night out. Could be a little bit of everything in terms of all facets of the game to impact that team and help them win.
Yes, and it's going to vacillate night to night. Some nights going to be needed more than others. It was needed a little less tonight offensively.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. That's what it comes down to. And that's when you have a really good team. Those are the kinds of things that come up. And I think, listen, I'll make this statement, and this is a big statement because this team went to an NBA final, this organization, in 2021 under Monty Williams with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. This is the best team Devin Booker's ever been on, short of that Olympic team from last summer. They're the best team that they've had. And so I think for him, he has a clear understanding of where he is and what they have, and his role is going to be a huge one, CP, a massive role. It wasn't last night. So what? Bottom line, they still came down with the W. He's not going to be one of these guys that's pouting over touches and overlooks because he knows he can get him if he wants him. In the end, everybody's pulling in the same direction. Everybody wants to win. You asked me the question earlier about Durant not doing much in the first half, taking, 4 shots?
Yeah.
Like, Durant's fine with that too. This is how this team is going to operate. Mike Budenholzer, there's a lot more threes that are going to go up. He's going to want threes to go up on this team. And that's going to be a little bit of adjustment for guys like Durant and Booker, who generally have been more comfortable historically playing in the mid-range. But nonetheless, I don't think anybody's I think Bradley Beal's the one guy there that's really worried about role. I think everybody else there is fine with the role, is going to do what they have to do. Beal's, to me, the guy I have the largest concern about. And again, that's from some intel that I've heard regarding about where he is right now, and that he's been a little bit ego-wise a load for them to manage, for no pun intended, early in training camp, and we'll see how that manifests itself. Because listen, there's got to be some insecurities from Bradley Beal here. In the respect that you can make the case that both O'Neal and Allen are better fits. And Beal is just like a good wing player for them right now, and a team that's really deep with wings. And that's not a bad thing. But I think Bradley Beal kind of expected more and is used to what he had in Washington. And it's time to adjust because he got a chance to win a championship.
Another storyline from last night's round of games, Ja Morant's return to the Memphis Grizzlies. Missed basically all of last year due to the suspension and then the shoulder injury upon his return. 22 points, 10 assists, including a late clutch bucket, leading the Grizzlies 126 to 124 over the Jazz. Where do you see? I mean, obviously, there's no question when he's back, he can crack that top 10 conversation. But with Memphis and their positioning in the West, a team who many had high expectations for, what do you think about their prospects this year?
I'm not buying on Memphis at all this year. I bought on them last year and got burned. They won 27 games. First of all, the Jaren Jackson injury, he's injured a lot. I got to see how that manifests itself. I was very disappointed in both Jackson and Bane last year, how little load they actually carried when push came to shove on winning basketball games. Even last night I watched him, and Morant was great last night. I worry about Morant's health because he plays the game a whole lot like Derrick Rose did 10 years ago. He's high flying to the basket, and in a way, it's certainly now with more physicality being allowed, his likelihood of being injured raises significantly with that style of play. And again, that's all he knows. And I'm not saying he should play differently, but it's a concern. Listen, Utah's not good. And I know Markin at 35 last night. You needed 26 from Aldama to win that game last night from Santi Aldama. I don't know if Memphis in the end, I don't know if it's a good mix. I don't know that they have enough. And I just think the West is brutally tough. And watching them last night, Edie struggled. Edie may have his struggles. I'm surprised Edie struggled offensively to the extent that he did. I think more jitters than anything else. Edie will struggle defensively. I know he lost weight. I know they'll try to have him be out in the perimeter a little more. But when Zach Edey's on the floor, if you're against a good team, you could only play drop defense. And that's going to have a limit to how effective they can be defensively with him on the floor. I just see there's too many warts on Memphis right now for me to be totally sold. And the conference is too good. I mean, there's so many good teams in this conference that I just wonder who's Memphis going to be able to rise up and actually be better than when I look at who's in that top 10. I mean, teams like the Lakers and Sacramento, forget the Clippers for a minute, but teams like the Lakers and the Sacramento and the Rockets and even the Pelicans. I know they sustained an injury last night with Murray, but even the Pelicans, they have a lot of really good perimeter players. They're going to get Trey Murphy back. Like it's very hard for me to buy on Memphis this year. They're going to have to prove themselves to me.
Yeah, I agree with you on Morant. Certainly happy to see him back, the type of player that he is, and watching him draw that contact, finish through contact at the rim. While it is exciting to see, you do wonder, is that sustainable over the course of his career? And is he going to find that adjustment where, sometimes maybe it's not 0 to 100 to the rim. Maybe it's a stop and pop or better, a three-point look if the shot is there, just to keep your body. I mean, he's a smaller guard, plays tough, plays ferocious, but for long-term sustainability, I think he's going to have to mix it up a little bit. And also, as you mentioned in terms of their prospects, I think they're missing that firepower on the wing.
Yes.
The G.G. Jackson injury, he's going to take a little while, but we saw some good things from him in his rookie year. I want to see how they look as a tandem. Going to miss some time with the foot injury, but certainly on the wing, I think is where they're missing.
I think you make a very good point. Listen, part of what's happened with them is they traded a lot for Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
And he's Marcus Smart, which is a good thing in some ways. In other ways, not as much of a good thing because he can't shoot. He still can't shoot. He guards very well. He brings an attitude to your team. He helps you with an identity. The Grizzlies kind of had that identity before all this. They didn't necessarily need him for all this. I think they're putting a lot in him. They thought he could replace Jones as a backup point guard. He doesn't. He's just not efficient like that. So, and I'm not beating on Marcus Smart because I think in the right situation, he can help a team win a championship. I really do. I just don't know that this is the right situation for him. So you look at some of the thinness on the wing from this team. Listen, watch Zaire Williams, who there was a guy they were developing, and he was playing on the Nets last night. Yeah. Like they've kind of run away. David Roddy was a guy that they talked up big. They liked a lot. He's with Phoenix now. Like, I mean, they've gotten rid of a lot of guys that they drafted that they felt had some promise. It's an odd situation, but a lot is being put in the hands of Marcus Smart to help them with depth, anchor a bench a little bit. And I just don't know if he has that in him at this stage.
Yeah, I can certainly understand it. CP the Franchise, Brian Gelsiler on the ones and twos. Salute to everybody in the chat. Like, share, and subscribe. A Thursday edition of the NBA Report. Shout out to some of our people here in the chat. Strive, Eric L. Beats, Will Hooper, Gamba the Bar, GQ, Chevor TV. D-Blocks 1755 and BKK Dan says, salute, great to catch you guys live, man. Salute to BKK Dan and everybody who is entering on the lunchtime hour right here on the East Coast. Okay, Gales, also last night around the association, you had the Philadelphia 76ers losing to the Milwaukee Bucks in their season opener, home opener, 124 to 109. Well, the big story here is Joel Embiid and Paul George missed this game, but in particular, Joel Embiid, with the declaration from the team, the statement from the team that he's beginning the season on load management. You have the league now potentially getting ready to investigate this. This is unheard of, man. I saw your tweet on this last night on Twitter. What's your take on Joel Embiid missing time here to start the season?
CP, I got a question. He's not going to play any back-to-backs this year or the rest of his career. Did the Sixers play on Tuesday night? Right. Did the Sixers play on Tuesday night? Because I watched 2 games on Tuesday night, and the Philadelphia 76ers weren't in either of them. Like, it wasn't a back-to-back.
Wow.
So you're just going to start the season with him not playing, and this is why the league's getting heavy.
Yeah.
Because how much does the league hype opening week?
Yeah.
The league's hyping opening week in August when they release the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big deal. Philly, Milwaukee, Giannis Dame on one side, Embiid and PG on the other. This is a big marquee thing where ESPN's trying to bring some eyeballs in the first week of the season, where in October, let's face it, it's tough. You're in the throes of NFL, in the throes of college basketball. You got a World Series that's got national appeal starting on Friday. Hockey began. You have so many other options for your TV watching pleasure. They would like ESPN, when the games that they paid a lot of money for, they'd like their stars to be on the floor. Now, Paul George is injured. He hyperextended in the knee, ends up being a bone bruise. Okay, Paul George has to do some more time out. That's part of the deal. Guys get hurt. Joel Embiid is not injured. Joel Embiid has not had surgery, right? He played in the Olympics.
Just played in the Olympics.
He was out of shape. Now he claims he lost 25 to 30 pounds. No one has given a clear reason why Joel Embiid wasn't on the floor last night, besides for this strategy that they're going to keep him in bubble wrap. Now, we have seen this strategy before, most recently with the LA Clippers. How does it work? Keeping the guy in bubble wrap doesn't guarantee that he stays healthy on the floor. It guarantees nothing. What it does guarantee is that you're not going to win enough regular season games to have home playoff series. You have playoff series with home court advantage. That's what it guarantees. So what the Sixers are doing here, if you wanted to tell me Joel Embiid's not going to play back-to-backs all year, okay, I would not argue. Okay, that's fine. But if it's not a back-to-back, put the dude on the floor and let him play basketball. Think about what they've done in terms of new blood on this team, from Paul George to Caleb Martin to Eric Gordon to Andre Drummond to Yabusele. Okay, this is nothing but new guys, right?
Team.
Brand new team. Jared McCain. This is a brand new team, CP. You got to have this team mesh. Embiid has maybe more gravity than any guy in the league this side of Jokic or Giannis, in terms of the ball touching him every possession, him being involved all the time. How are any of these guys supposed to adjust playing with him when he's not out there all the time and you can't garner any consistency? The Sixers play differently with him off the floor. And yes, Drummond helps you for when he gets hurt. Drummond helps you on the back-to-backs. But you don't have Paul George right now. You're going to come out against Milwaukee with Giannis and Dame coming out play, and Milwaukee has something to prove, and you saw that last night. They played hard and they played well. They were able to win a game by 15 points where Giannis went 9 of 16 from the free throw line. Milwaukee they're ready to play. How do you think your team is going to be ready to play and have a chance to compete with this group when you're indiscriminately benching Embiid because you just don't feel like he's ready for the season yet? Like I don't blame the league for investigating it, and because I think the TV partners are injecting so much money into this sport that they get to have a say on some of this stuff. They do. Yeah. That's the way it works. That they're buying a say
money talks,
on some of the stuff with the amount of money that they're investing in this product. They get that. But more than that, the larger picture, him not playing in game one is not good for the Sixers. Yeah. Them announcing before the season starts he's not going to play in the first 3 games. So go ahead, start 0-3. How are things going to look when you're 9-13, 22 games in, and you're 10th in the East?
Yeah.
How's that? And you got to dig out of a hole. Can you still sit them back-to-backs then? I think the big picture thinking here when it comes to the Sixers is misguided. I think you have to understand you do need him healthy for the playoffs, but kind of throwing caution to the wind with the regular season and somehow it doesn't matter. We've seen that movie before, and the movie doesn't end well, CP.
Yeah, and it's not like he's got the cachet where you can say like a LeBron James, where it's like, he's got championships, he's taken his team to the finals, he kind of earns that right to coast his way through. I mean, this is a team that hasn't won anything. They lost last year in the first round to the Knicks. There's a ton of pressure. Oh, and by the way, they just paid the guy a contract extension in which he's getting $300 million through the 28-29 season. So now you have a guy who just played in the Olympics, and the quote last night from Nick Nurse says, the plan is why he's not playing. He did not re-injure himself, but the plan is we don't feel like he's quite ready, strong enough, light enough, whatever it is. They've determined, I don't know who they is, they've determined he's not quite ready to go. Hasn't been in any full court scrimmages, etc., and that's the plan. He just played in the Olympics.
Why?
Right.
Why? Why is he not ready to go? Like, this is his job. They're paying the dude, what, $60 million a year?
Unbelievable.
Why is he not ready to go? And it's not about an injury. But listen, I'll tell you, he doesn't have the championship cachet, CP. You're 100% right. But Kawhi Leonard did have the championship cachet, and it was a miserable failure with the Clippers.
True.
And the thing is, I think some of this, and I think this is true in Kawhi's situation, that Kawhi he shouldn't be playing right now. They don't have no idea what the source of swelling of his knee is, and until they figure it out, they shouldn't put him out there in regular season games.
Yeah.
I get that. But they didn't even do it right with Kawhi. The model to do it is what Toronto did in 2018 and 2019 with Kawhi Leonard. He played in what I want to say 57, 58 games. He didn't play any back-to-backs. He was healthy as could be. And they were consistent in when they played him and when they didn't. You knew when he was going to play. You knew when he wasn't. He wasn't going to play on back-to-backs. They pick one of the two nights. They do it in advance. And he was sick. And the team understood the pattern, and the team was used to it. What you did here in Philly is you dictated what a pattern was going to be. And in game one, you deviated from the pattern. You have to, what happens sometimes, and where I think executives and even trainers and healthcare professionals, when it comes to preserving guys, I think the point that they miss is how difficult this is for the other players on the team when you pull a high usage guy out and then re-inject him. Because what happens with Embiid? How many shots a game Joel Embiid take? 22, 25 shots a game, right? So he's going to take that many shots a game. And then how many other possessions is he touching the ball and moving it through? Right. His usage rate is enormous. Who is going to inherit that usage when he's gone? Well, it won't all be inherited by one guy. Maybe it's Maxey, maybe it's Oubre, maybe it's Martin. Those guys will inherit some of that usage. When he comes back, those guys have to sacrifice that usage. And in many cases, those usage increases are meaningful. So not when Embiid comes back in, you have all of your other guys who have had to carry load for you, who now have to make massive adjustments to their own games. It's not just about the one player. It has a domino effect on the rest of the basketball team. And you look at this with Philly. Listen, the league's not investigating it because they're worried about the Sixers' success. The league's investigating it because the TV partners and ESPN and Disney in particular are pissed off. Yeah. That's why the league should investigate it, because Disney and ESPN are not wrong here. There's every realistic expectation to have a healthy player on the floor. And if you don't think his conditioning is right and you don't think he's ready, then play him 15 to 18 minutes. But he belongs on that floor. He belongs on that TV screen as long as he is healthy. And again, this is not an issue with Paul George. It's completely limited to Embiid. But I'll say this, and my buddy Mike Lombardi, who covers the NFL, says this all the time about Joel Embiid. Anytime you put him there, this is why Embiid has not been successful, because a lot of this is what's happening is player-driven. If Embiid said he was ready, no one on the Sixers is telling him he's not ready to play. And this is one of the reasons Joel Embiid has never gotten out of the second round.
And it's not going to work. It's never worked in the NBA.
Nope.
You can't just, you know, casually, I'm here, I'm not here. And as you said, the TV partners have something to say. But how do you as an organization sell that to your fans? How many fans lined up and bought tickets? And the ticket prices are going up. They're not slowing down. They're going up every year. How do you sell that to your fan base that on opening night, your top guy, your MVP candidate, your highest paid player on the team is not going to be there? By the way, he's not going to be there on back-to-back nights. But please insert your deposit here for season tickets. Oh, and by the way, they're up another 10, 15% over year. How do you do that?
And we're already taking deposits for next year.
Yeah, and we're taking deposits for next year. Early bird special,
Right. And oh, by the way, you can give us a deposit for your playoff tickets right now.
Right now.
Okay?
Right now.
And we're going to lose regular season games because our best player is not going to be in the lineup. It's insane. It's the only industry, and really maybe the only league in professional sports that treats their customers this way. It really is. And you're right. Listen, it's bad for the Sixers. It's bad for the league. But on a fundamental level, it is a mistreatment of the Philadelphia 76ers season ticket holders and people that pay money to come to these games, and people that pay money to subscribe to the product, whether it's through a cable company and whoever, and your regional TV provider, or whether it's through NBA League Pass, it's being paid to the league. People are paying money to consume this product. When they pay money, for the Philadelphia 76ers, they're expecting to get Joel Embiid. Okay, you gave a level of expectation from the beginning of the year that he's not going to play back-to-backs, which means if you go buy tickets on a night of a back-to-back, you got to understand you're taking a risk. But part of the deal wasn't missing the first 3 games of the year, and there's no concrete injury reason for him to be missing these games. So I'm going to say this: shame on the Philadelphia 76ers, shame on Joel Embiid, and more than that, shame on the Sixers for enabling this stuff with Joel Embiid.
CP the Franchise, Brian Gelseiler here on this afternoon edition of the NBA Report. Salute to everybody in the chat, man. Like, share, and subscribe. We are reacting to the first couple of nights of the opening week of the NBA 24-25 season. All right, Brian, speaking of opening night, banner night, ring night was not a good one for my New York Knicks, but it certainly was for the Boston Celtics. It was a Boston three-party, 29 made threes, almost breaking the record and trying hard to do so. I mean, that was embarrassing as watching as a Knicks fan in horror as these guys are just hoisting up threes in the fourth quarter to purposely break this record. You know, the narrative around this team in the offseason, and talking about the Celtics, to me was so manufactured and so forced. They're going to go into championship malaise. They're like just grasping at straws to figure out what's going to throw this team off. And I know it was just one game, but I never bought the fact that, you know, they're going to go through this malaise. I didn't buy the fact that last year was an easy path because they were the most dominant team from the regular season straight through to the playoffs. Third best ever in terms of net rating in the regular season. I think this team could be even better than last year. Your thoughts on the James?
I wasn't worried about malaise with them for two reasons. Number one, Jason Tatum is pissed. Jason Tatum didn't feel like he was appropriately respected in the Olympics this year by Team USA and Steve Kerr. And Tatum is out to prove that he's one of the 5 best players in the league. And frankly, he played like that.
He was fantastic. Okay? Fantastic.
Jaylen Brown is also really pissed. Jaylen Brown felt like he deserved to be an Olympian. And although he will not be mad at a teammate in Derek White, because anybody would have taken that honor that Derek White was given, he believes that Derek White was given an honor that he earned. And Jaylen Brown now wants to prove he is one of the best players in the league as well. And I thought Jaylen Brown, everybody's talked a lot, we'll get into the threes and how they exploited Towns. One of the things I thought was scary for any Knick fan when you look at what's going to happen in a playoff series, I thought how well Jaylen Brown defended Jalen Brunson and defended him 94 feet is something that should be very concerning to Knick fans. Brown was in his grill and did a job on him. And you're going to have to find other guys that are going to be able to be shot makers for the Knicks against the Celtics if Brown is going to guard Brunson to that extent. Because if Brunson's going to try to take a lot of shots with Jaylen Brown on him, he's going to force him into inefficiency. So that narrative, to me, I felt like the Celtics were still going to be really good this year. With all that said, I got to give Joe Mazzulla a lot of credit. That was, from an offensive standpoint, that was a targeted strategy under the identity umbrella that Joe Mazzulla has put the Celtics underneath. Okay, their identity is we're going to take as many threes as we can get up. That's what Mazzulla wants to do. As many as you can get up. Okay, what they decided to do in this game is say, okay, we are going to actually put Towns in every pick and roll, knowing that Tom's going to play drop defense with him. And right now, Thibodeau doesn't have a ton of choices. He's trying to get Towns where he wants him to be defensively. And the best way to do that is to start with drop defense. So with that said, the Celtics were probably the worst possible opponent the Knicks could have day one. But they ran everything at Towns, and they took advantage of it. And listen, the Knicks, I talk about high usage players. Towns is a high usage player. You put new guys on a roster. Look at the Knicks starting 5. Okay, it's Brunson and Hart. Okay, best of friends. Both guys have been there a while. OG Anunoby got there in January and missed half the time that he was there, if not more. He's a pretty new guy to this group. Then you turn around and you put Towns in there and you put Bridges in there, who are brand new to the group. And listen, I will say this, okay? And our buddy Rob Perez at NBA Radio calls what the Knicks built with the Villanova guys La Cosa Nova, which I love. I call it the Villanova Mafia. But Knicks fans were very naive to think that you were going to shove these Villanova guys together and it was all going to work like it did 7 years ago. That's not necessarily how it works. Bridges, as you could see, is struggling very badly with his shot. The mechanics aren't right. He'll get it. The guy works very hard and he'll get it. But I thought what he said after the game was interesting because he criticized his own defense where he thought he had to improve. And he's 100% right. The airspace that they gave the Celtic shooters was ridiculous. From Tatum to Brown to White to Holiday, to Hauser, no one was smothered on the perimeter. Everybody was fine with waiting for a guy to get into a shooting motion before you decided to make a two-step move at him, and no one got there in time.
Yeah.
So and Bridges was more guilty of that than anybody. There's a lot of things that have to improve in the Knicks. I know you asked me on the Celtics side. I ended up taking this to the Knicks, but that kind of gives you an overview of what that whole matchup was the other night, and really the Knicks being a massive work in progress right now.
Massive work in progress. And, one of the things I pointed to on the pregame was if they were even going to have a chance to stay close in the game, they've got to try to close the possession gap or even win it, and they couldn't do so. They lost the rebounding battle. They, several turnovers, and Boston's that team where if you let them get those second chance opportunities, if the ball dribbles off your foot, there's another three going up right after that. They're letting it fly, and you're going to get burned.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The other thing that I observed is I thought the Knicks had significant spacing issues. Hart looks like he doesn't know where to be on offense. And some of it is simpler. He had a particular play where he penetrated. He ended up passing to Towns around the elbow. And then instead of clearing to the weak side corner, he cleared to the weak side dunker spot. But at the time, they had Horford on him. And what it allowed is Towns went to make a move from the elbow and got one dribble space into the paint. Horford was able to hedge and be able to still be in position to guard Hart, but to keep Towns from making another dribble towards the basket. If Hart clears to that weak side corner, then Horford actually has to make a decision, and Hart's open for a corner three if Horford commits to Towns, and if Horford stays at a spot where he can get to Hart, Towns has the space he needs. Hart is going to be, he's another work in progress offensively with getting comfortable with all of this spacing. He didn't seem like the Knicks had a couple points in time. They had one particular possession. The ball ended up close to the left corner. They had two guys standing next to each other in the corner. Towns in the dunker spot, and the ball 3 feet from Towns standing there in the corner, just completely bunched up. So these are chemistry things that need to be worked out. Guys aren't comfortable with where they're standing on the floor. Everybody wants to run to the ball. A lot of it is amateurish, quite frankly. With all that said, Tom Thibodeau is one of the best coaches in the world. He will figure it out. They'll get this spacing right, but it's a product of having a largely new group together.
Is there a weakness to be exploited on this Celtics team?
Well, sure. Yes. Listen, when they go to the bench, why are you not running every pick and roll at Hauser and Pritchard? That's the weakness. The weakness is the Celtics. Listen, the Celtics have a similar weakness to the Knicks. The Celtics have been together longer. They don't have depth. This is not a deep team. Hauser helped them last year. Pritchard helped them last year. Neither of those guys could guard me, CP. So start running pick and rolls at those guys when they put them in the game. The problem is what's happened there is the other five guys are such good defensive players, even 39-year-old Horford, that infrastructure-wise, they cover pretty good. They'll do some off-ball switches. They'll try to get those guys on the weak side where they're not necessarily, all they have to worry about is staying on a shooter. They schematically try to hide these guys, but there's ways to not let them hide them. Running a dribble handoff, or having a ball screen from Hauser's man or Pritchard's man with the ball in Brunson's hands is a pretty simple way to exploit them and let the Celtics start having to worry about switching that. Having different guys create pick and roll is also something that you can certainly do. Whoever Hauser's man is going to be, if he's going to put him on Anunoby, let Anunoby initiate. Let Brunson be a screener. You want to put these guys in as many actions as possible, because once the Knicks last year were a really good cutting team off the ball. And I think they have to get back to some of that. And when you're trying to hide guys like Hauser and Pritchard, the way you hide them are off-ball switches. The way you punish off-ball switches are backdoor cuts. Backdoor cuts when those switches are happening. Just commit to a cut and go to the basket. The Knicks are going to have to start to do a lot more of that if they want to match up better with Boston. Because as great as Boston's three-point barrage was, I thought that the Knicks offensively looked absolutely miserable, and that became a larger concern to me on a whole.
Overall, as you said, big work in progress for the Knicks, but Boston, man, continues to stay hot. So we'll see where both teams are. Knicks home opener this Friday at Madison Square Garden as they take on another great offense in the Indiana Pacers, who took care of the Pistons yesterday. The other doubleheader from the opening night Tuesday, we saw the Lakers win their opening night matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves. A lot to be made there. The Bronny storyline, father and son combo. Did you make anything of that moment? Some people were criticizing it. It's forced. It's this, is that. Where did you stand on that, first and foremost?
I thought it was great, and I loved how JJ Redick handled it. Get them on the floor together. End of the first half, 3 minutes. They played together. All the camera clicks, got their photo ops with the Griffies, and then it's done, and the team had a basketball game to play. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And listen, it was a great moment for LeBron James. I heard Brian Windhorst say this earlier this week on the Hoop Collective podcast on ESPN with Bobby Marks, and I thought he was so right about this. Mm-hmm. All the criticism being heaped on the Lakers about this. Is it wrong to want to make a move that really financially is on the margins? It doesn't really affect you all that much financially. Mm-hmm. And it's a move that makes your best player and your superstar feel more engaged and feel like he has more skin in the game with your team. Is that a bad thing? Because I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a really, really good thing. And I think what you saw here for the Lakers, LeBron feels invested in this team, maybe more than he did since they won the title in 2020, because his son is there. He is in teaching mode with his son, but part of teaching is him leading by example. He's just, you hear from everybody around there, he's just more engaged into all of it. Because he's involved with his son now, he's involved with the young players. To my understanding, he's built up a very close relationship with second-year player Jalen Hood-Schifino. Okay, he loves Dalton Connect. And LeBron James, he can help all these guys become much better NBA players. The other thing that I'll tell you about the Lakers, independent of Bron and Bronny for a minute, is JJ Redick. He announced it early in training camp. And sometimes we learn lessons in any walk of life, CP. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Last year, they went 23-10 with a starting lineup of Davis, James, Hachimura, Reeves, and Russell. He announced that's a starting lineup. That's it. And I got to tell you, the group meshes together. Hachimura is a wonderful complement to James and Davis in the front court. Guards will hit an open corner three, offensive rebounds. He's a well-rounded player. Yes, you're weak defensively in the backcourt with Reeves and Russell. There's no doubt. But you're going to go to the bench. Your first guy off the bench could be Gabe Vincent. Good defensive player. And I do think what you're going to see happen with this team, their point guard combo after the trade deadline, is going to be Vincent and Hood-Schifino. I think Hood-Schifino is going to end up in this rotation. There are very good things about him right now. And I think they move Russell and picks in some kind of package to bring in another wing that can defend. Because the one spot I see where the Lakers are going to have problems and get weak is you can't have Reeves and Connect on the floor together for long periods of time because of how poor they both defend. Listen, Reeves is never going to be a good defensive player in this league. Connect may have a chance, but it's not going to be right now. So I think for the Lakers, that's really got to be their big focus. One more 3-and-D guy, but adding Connect gives them more shooting. Listen, the second guy they brought off the bench was Max Christie. Okay, Max Christie. And that's another guy, third-year player here. They just signed to a contract extension, athletic wing they like a lot. The Lakers are going young around the big guys with good athletes, and I actually think it's going to bear fruit because JJ Redick is completely invested on player development. Let me just say this on JJ Redick, because JJ Redick is another one that understands here about not reinventing the wheel. He knows the game very well. JJ Redick understands that guys a lot dumber than him have been successful NBA coaches. He knows if he rolls up his sleeves and puts the time in and makes this about the people around him and is a good communicator and a good people person and direct, that he has the tactical knowledge to be a very good NBA coach. And I think early on we're going to see that. I like the fact that Redick has his finger on the pulse of this team. He has the group carrying themselves with confidence. I think it's a good situation with the Lakers. I think they're going to be better than people think.
And Redick is getting already very high remarks across the team. Anthony Davis felt like this team was very prepared in their win over the Timberwolves. And speaking of Davis, 36 points, 16 boards, 4 dimes, a steal, 3 blocks, 11 to 23 from the field. Excellent night on both ends of the floor for Anthony Davis. And it seems as though, based on his comments and what we saw on Tuesday, that JJ Redick, in terms to run this offense through AD, a move that I've been wanting to see the Lakers make since they won the championship 4 years ago. It makes sense, 31 years old in his prime, and it's paid benefits, at least on Tuesday night. Looked pretty good, man.
Shooting three, CP. You see that?
Yeah,
and let me tell you, he hasn't shot three since they won the title in 2020. And JJ Redick did an interview before the season began on the ESPN platform on Zach Lowe's now defunct podcast, The Low Post.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, it's unfortunate. It ended up being Zach's last pod ever for ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
It's the single best coaching interview with an NBA coach I've ever heard. Zach has a relationship with JJ. He minded in terms of the interview. It's a super interview with JJ Redick, and it's one of those you listen to and you're like, you know what? I think this guy may be able to do the job. If he can walk the walk like he talks the talk, he can do the job. But he did say something in the interview where Zach asked him the question about AD and threes. And JJ Redick said, I think we're going to see some threes out of him this year. Said, I noticed something in his shooting motion that I think can help with that.
Wow.
And Zach said to him, what did you notice? And he said, well, that I'm not going to say publicly. That's between AD and I. That's not something we're going to discuss publicly. He said, but that's between AD and I. So you hear JJ Redick say that, and then you see the entire offense run through Anthony Davis and see him with a handful of three-point attempts and see him have some success there. JJ knows what he's doing. He's on to something here. He feels like he's got the finger on the pulse of coaching, the finger on the pulse of his team. And listen, he's going to have rookie moments as a rookie head coach. But we have seen in the past some first-time rookie head coaches have some tremendous success early on in this league. There's no reason JJ Redick can't be one of them.
Yeah, that is true. And, Pelinka went on the record as saying, look, he's going to have his hand on the trigger by the trade deadline. He says he's going to take 20 to 30 games, evaluate where this team is, where the roster is. They have the 2029 and 31 first-round picks. But I look at it as kind of a tricky situation because, in my opinion, this is a Laker team who maybe they could finish 5th in a loaded West. They could finish 12th. Who knows, depending on how things go. But with, LeBron's going to be 40, and as great as he's playing, eventually Father Time is going to knock on that door. You have Anthony Davis, had a fairly healthy year last season. Let's see if he can replicate it this season. But does it make sense to mortgage a little more of the future to compete in a crowded West, given that, they have young talent, they have guys that they can build around? You mentioned Hood Schifino, Dalton Connect has been drawing eyebrows. But what do you think about mortgaging some more of that future to try to add to this depth and rotation?
The team will answer that question for you. I give it till Christmas. Watch how they play. If you look up at Christmas, and I don't know how many games are played by Christmas, 35, right? 32.
Yeah.
What if they're 20 and 12? What if they're 22 and 10? They've earned some help. They've showed you that they can be competitive with top teams in the league. They've earned it. If they're, 14 and 18, don't trade your young guys. Like that's kind of where this is for them. If the team earns it and proves it, then you go out and you get them help. You get LeBron and AD help. If the other guys tend to step up, you have a hole or two that you feel like you have to fill, and you're willing to sacrifice your future to do it. Listen, you're right. LeBron James is going to be 40 December 30th. Okay. However, because he's going to be 40 December 30th, if you're really good, the time is now.
Yeah.
The time is now. So and that's the thing, if this team proves that they can be a successful team and that they show 30, 35 games in that they can win 60 to 65% of their games, and the kind of reinforcements that are available in the trade market will help them be an even better team and be potential force in the playoffs, you don't have a choice. You have to do it. By the same token, I'm not from a 15 and 20 team. I'm not giving any picks or any young guys. So a lot of this lies in LeBron and AD. If you want added help, you have to go out there early and win games for this team and prove that you deserve it. And I don't say that I'm not looking to be derogatory to LeBron and Anthony Davis. That's not my intention. But my point being, as you stated, for the Lakers and their future, they have to be very discerning about what moves they make. It can't just be push your chips to the middle of the table because LeBron wants us to. It has to be this team that LeBron and AD are leading has showed you that they earned reinforcements, and you go get them when they earn them. But if they don't earn them, you can't give it to them, because for the Lakers, if you're bad now, hey, it happens. You're bad now. You still have the asset in Anthony Davis if you want to do a full rebuild. But if you're bad now and you're trading first-round picks to try to go from bad to mediocre, or from mediocre to slightly above average, that's not going to work. If you can go from slightly above average or good to very good or great, and that's what a move makes you, that's the move that you make. And that's why how this team plays in the first half of the season is going to be vital to what we see them do as we get to January 1st in the trade deadline.
As we look to Thursday night's games, you have 4 games on the docket, a couple of TNT doubleheader, which many fans will be having their eyes on. You'll have Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs visiting the Dallas Mavericks. You know, a lot of hype on Wemby this year in the second year. Is it Defensive Player of the Year? Is it MVP? Is it both of those combined? Is it history in the making? Are you putting the stock in the Wemby bucket here for year 2, a dominant year 2 for Wemby and the Spurs?
Yes, I picked him as Defensive Player of the Year. I love what I saw from him in the Olympics. I thought the way he approached the gold medal game was, dude's got stones. Like, he was up against the U.S. team with 3 legends, LeBron and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, and Victor Wembanyama carried himself like he was the best player on the floor. And that swagger will do wonders for him. I mean, wonders in the NBA this year. I like what they did in the offseason, bringing in Chris Paul, bringing in Harrison Barnes, because I think when you have Victor Wembanyama on your team, not different than having Tim Duncan on your team. The time is now. You want to get better immediately and start to be ready to compete, so you can start to build and see what you have and get good as quickly as possible. And I picked him as Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to have a great year. And I think for the Spurs here, the time is now to really get better and to improve. You saw last year, forget the power forward stuff. He's a center. Play him there. He'll be on the perimeter. At times he'll do what he does. But I think that for the Spurs here, to kind of decide, hey, we're just going to wait around Wemby, I don't love that idea. You know, listen, I didn't love trading out of the 8th pick in the first round. There was no one there they really wanted that they thought could help. They didn't want the guaranteed contract. You can't tell me Dalton Connect at number 8 couldn't have helped this team. There were guy Cody Williams went to Utah at 10. That's a guy that projects as a 3D wing, you know, and certainly has the family pedigree with his brother being Jalen Williams in OKC and working hard. Like I wasn't on board with that move. I didn't love that move. With all that said, I like adding some veterans around Wemby, and I do think for the Spurs this year, I think they're going to be hanging around for one of those playing spots.
On the Dallas side, obviously with Luka Doncic there and Kyrie Irving, you certainly can't count them out. Last year told us so. But I thought the loss of Derrick Jones was going to be big. He goes on to the Clippers. I'm not impressed with the Clay pickup. Look, I know they haven't started this season yet. Preseason, he doesn't look so great. I thought they did add Najee Marshall and Quentin Grimes, but I thought they got a little bit weaker defensively, especially in their starting 5. They got less versatile. Is the Clay pickup enough to give you confidence in a Dallas repeat run to the finals?
So here's 2 different questions there. So let's approach the first part first. Yeah. All right. I don't look at it as just the Clay pickup. I look at it as, so Derrick Jones, Tim Hardaway, and Josh Green are gone. Yeah. All right. Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, and Quentin Grimes are in. CP, you're 100% right. Their starting lineup got weaker defensively, which is why I don't even understand any of this nonsense about not starting Derek Lively and starting Daniel Gafford instead. You need Lively's defense in that starting lineup very, very badly. Yeah. So you're right about that. But their bench defense got a lot stronger. Yeah. I mean, Tim Hardaway's a sieve defensively. Yeah, he just doesn't guard anybody. He doesn't. And Josh Green's kind of in and out of stuff there. Najee Marshall's he's an energizer bunny. He's a great guy to have on your team and a wonderful bench weapon. And we saw some decent things out of Quentin Grimes with the Knicks. If you're not going to ask him to be in an outsized role, I like him. Yeah. So, I think you're absolutely right about the starting lineup. The bench got stronger. And I think in a case like this where your bench got stronger, I think it puts you in better shape. Now, the second part of the question, to repeat and go back to the finals, the problem that you have there is everybody else got better too. Yeah. So OKC is better, right? They're improved. Minnesota, you can make the case, is improved with Randall and DiVincenzo versus Towns. All right. So you have there's been a lot of improvement across the board here with teams that you're going to be competing with. Phoenix, we talked about earlier, they got much better. Houston's going to be better with their younger guys. So my thing for Dallas is I think Dallas is better than they were last year. I think their chances of going to the finals are worse. Just because the bar has been raised in that conference. Everybody has gotten better. CP. And if you haven't gotten better, you're in kind of trouble. Like, I think that's what hurts Denver so badly in this situation, is I just don't think they have a lack of depth. They lost another vital guy. Everybody else getting better around you, and you're getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the Denver side, and Denver will take on OKC in the main event of tonight's matchups, of Thursday night's matchups. And I agree with you on the Denver side. I have a hard time seeing them getting back to prominence there. I don't know if it's the second apron that's, stop Kroenke and these guys from keeping their guys. Losing KCP was certainly big, but I think you're going to put a lot of pressure on their younger players. Christian Brown gets into the starting lineup. You have a number, Strother off of the bench. Peyton Watson, who I like, very, very versatile wing off of the bench, but those guys are going to have to pick it up for Denver to even have a close to enough chance to compete in the West.
Yes. The thing you need to know about Denver here, CP, is the disconnect between Mike Malone and Calvin Booth going on right now. Mike Malone doesn't like his roster. He likes having Jokic. He likes Jamal Murray. He likes Aaron Gordon. Beyond that, he doesn't really like his roster. And Booth is sold on a lot of these young guys. I know, listen, Christian Brown played a nice role in helping them win an NBA championship. Calvin Booth loves Peyton Watson. Malone gave him a chance last year. He wasn't that good. And yes, uber athletic, but what can he be as a player? Where's his upside? Strother, Calvin Booth loves Strother. Malone's giving him a look. Maybe he's got it, maybe he doesn't. I listen, bringing Westbrook, and I know people are criticizing that move. I actually liked it a lot. I feel like, because listen, Denver, the thing for Denver is this. They don't, besides Jokic inside, they don't have a lot of sources of easy buckets.
Yeah.
Westbrook is still, at this point in his career, is a one-man transition game. Nikola Jokic is the single best outlet passer in this league. Gets a lot of rebounds. Okay, they're going to get a lot of easy buckets for Westbrook in transition. And it just gives you a little bit of insurance for Murray injury-wise also. So with all that said, though, I think that Malone is probably right and Calvin Booth is probably wrong. I don't think it's a great roster. And I think when you look at how much better everybody else has gotten, absorbing the KCP loss on the defensive end of the floor is going to be a hassle for Denver. 10 ways coming and going. And I think they're going to struggle to stay out of the play-in tournament to be one of the top 6 teams. I think they're going to be the 5, 6, 7 range is where I think you're going to see Denver hang around, which is crazy considering they have the best player on the planet.
Yeah. No question about it. And on the other side, you have OKC. I love the Caruso and Hartenstein pickups in the offseason. I felt like those were key glue guys to help them get over the hump. What else do you feel like OKC needs to do? Number 1 seed last year in the West. What else do you think that they need? You need to see from OKC this season for them to get past and get to the championship.
Well, we got to start with healthy, right? Jalen Williams sprained ankle. Isaiah Hartenstein is missing time with a broken hand. We're going to reevaluate him in 6 weeks. So it first starts there for them. And you would think a young team is more likely to stay healthy. Here they've had some injury issues early on. Beyond that, healthy, they're as good as anybody. Because what they did here is two big criticisms of them last year. Number 1 is they were a poor defensive rebounding team. Number 2 is they weren't deep enough. So what essentially they did is they went out and got, and as you know, CP, you being a Knicks guy, you know what Isaiah Hartenstein is on the glass. And that's an enormously important player for them. And he fits into their offensive concepts with the way he moves the ball through the middle of the floor in a short roll. So he'll help them out a lot there. He's a real good player for them. Caruso just gives you a guy that can guard point guards and hit threes. And it's a nice compliment next to SGA, but it deepens the roster. And what Sam Presti showed you in the offseason is that he liked his bench guys too, because he went and signed Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe to very reasonable deals to essentially be the 8th and 9th guy coming off this bench, and which is fine because they still have Case and Wallace. Yeah. So when you look at everything that they did, they've now built this team up. They go a good 9 deep with legit NBA guys. Presti hasn't traded a draft pick yet. So if they're looking to get better and they have to get better and they decide there's guys they don't want to pay, they can do something. Listen, you can put Wiggins and Joe into a deal. They're movable deals and they're serviceable bench guys with a pick or two and bring in a higher salaried guy if you want to make a move. That's the thing for the Thunder. What gives them a decisive advantage over everybody else in the league for that matter. Okay, is they have the team, they have movable salaries. Dort's a guy I left. But Dort at $18 million a year, teams would line up for him. So if you want to go get somebody, you can get anybody you want that's going to be available.
Yeah.
So they can outbid anybody and still have enough there to field the championship caliber team. So I love what OKC did in the offseason. Are they experienced enough? Are they tough enough? Are they gritty enough to be able to win 3 playoff series and go to an NBA final? In this conference, I don't know. But in a regular season, there's no reason they can't win 60 games.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you on that one. And a team who, when we talk about the second apron, kind of hurting teams or limiting teams, the Knicks, for example, the way that they're going to address their bench depth needs, they've got to take a calculator out and make sure that they can fit all these guys under the second apron rules because they're hard capped at the second apron. But as you said, with OKC, with not as much salary invested in the back end of the rotation, a number of draft picks to play with, they could be well equipped come the trade deadline to make even more moves and become even that much more dangerous. So we'll have to see what happens there. But Gels, man, definitely appreciate the time joining
Always
us
my pleasure.
on today's show. 2 days into the NBA season, and we'll see what happens on tonight's doubleheader as well, man. We'll tap in. Make sure you guys check out Brian and our guy Sam Mitchell, former NBA Coach of the Year, on NBA weekends this Saturday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Make sure you tap in with my guys. Gals, have a great weekend. Have a great day. And thanks again for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, CP. Look forward to doing it again soon. Have a great weekend, buddy.
Absolutely, man. You too, man. All right, that was our guy, man, Brian Gelsiler on the ones and twos, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys are tapping in with the NBA report. We are back, and we're going to be kicking off these on Thursdays, and we're going to go Tuesday. We're going to go Tuesdays and Thursdays and make sure that we are trying to cover the league, at least twice a week. Make sure that we're tapping in. But we need your support, man. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. Wherever you guys do your social medias, email a friend. Number one show for the fans by the fans. And if you guys have an NBA guest that you want on this show, whether it's someone that we had in the past or we never had, leave a comment under this video and we will do our best to make it happen for you. All right, so let's tap in. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to your channel. Everybody who came in on the KFTV side, salute to you guys. Socrates, I see you, says great report. Will Latimer in here checking in from the A. Will Rose, salute. J Rose 712, salute. Talento never misses a show. Dude Rap, I see you. Alan Joe, how you feeling? Says AD looked like a beast against Gobert. Yeah, he certainly did, man. Absolutely did. So that's the story. Michael Powell, salute to you. And for the Knicks Fan TV side, we will see you on Friday. Everybody else on the NBA report side, see you guys on Tuesday, man. CB the Fan, Child,